All right, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Z with the Functional Medicine Academy. I know a lot of you are from the Functional Lawyer, and Scott's here, so hi to Scott. Some people have come here who work with Nathan through Designs for Health, and some are from our mentorship program. So we have a lovely mix of all different people, and what we have in common is functional medicine. So yay! One of my favorite things, and I love talking about it. So um, let me just sort of lay the groundwork and then we'll dive in. So we take about an hour and I want to leave room for Q&A. Now, sometimes people have so many questions, I do go over, so you don't have to stay, but the questions usually are pretty awesome. I do have a lot I want to cover with you tonight. It's all content-based. It's all about what I call the business of health, because so many times as practitioners, right, we just really care about taking care of our patients. Some of us have gone to school forever, and those people can keep us really busy, right? But when you do functional medicine, in most cases, you find yourself as a business owner and an entrepreneur. And some people haven't had experience with that, or some came from a whole nother type of practice. And functional medicine is really its own unique beast. So we're going to talk about what it means to be the business owner. And if you saw from the emails, one of the things we're going to cover tonight is also, how do you really not only survive but thrive when times are challenging? Because they've been challenging the last couple of years. But, some people, the news heading, the news and the headlines have been a little scary. People are talking about recession and gas prices are crazy. So we're talking about inflammation and inflammation. So yeah, it's hard to get out of that practitioner mode. Inflation. And it's just easy to worry, right? And our patients are worried. So as we go through this, we're going to cover what you need to be doing. So I hope you feel very confident and relax and you make some good decisions. You're going to be fine. And then also, what do we need to do to take care of our patients? Okay, so I know people are still coming in, but I'm ready to start. So let's get going here. The first thing just to show you is standard disclaimer. I work really hard to make sure that anything I share with you is current and accurate, especially when we're doing clinical training. I do a lot of clinical training. But of course, this is an educational experience, so always make sure that you do your due diligence, that you apply everything to your own license and board regulations and state. That's really Scott's expert, isn't it? So listen to what he's saying and practice within your own scope and make your own clinical decisions. All right, here's what we're going to do tonight so you know the order. The 3 practice pitfalls. I know when I say the plan, the money, and the isolation, that might not mean a lot, but I'm going to go through it in detail. And there's seriously some key stuff in there. Because when I say 3 practice pitfalls, some people, they think, I don't know, it's not having the right SEO, or it's based on, what this exact service is, or it's your location, right? And none of those things are what I'm talking about. So we will get into this, more deeply. And then the 5 steps to success. Again, the order, the focus, the intention, the numbers, the business. That doesn't tell you everything, but I'm going to, so we'll get into it. Welcome for those who are just arriving. Here's a little bit about me. I'm happy to answer questions, so anything I don't say, you can ask me in the Q&A. I always get excited about the content, so I just want to dive in, but I know I have to tell you a little bit because some of you are new to me, so why am I here and why am I talking? And of course, I really value your time. So first of all, thank you for showing up live. It's always so much more dynamic. Like I said, the Q&A is my favorite. So a little bit about me. I'm a 5th generation female entrepreneur. That's not that common. It means whether it's a blessing or a curse, this is born and bred into me. So it really is different being raised by entrepreneurs and business owners. And besides, I talked about this in an email I sent out earlier, besides the fact that I not only survived, but expanded during the last 2 years when I saw friends and colleagues, some went bankrupt, some closed their practice, some, got kicked out of spaces and leases. It was really sort of a complicated time. But I've also had businesses for, gosh, I'm dating myself now, but about 30 years. And I saw my mother and my grandmother, my great grandmas. I didn't see them do it, but I saw my mother and my mother and my grandmother do it. And I saw them weather like 2008, and I saw them weather all these other like financial times and political stress and even local really big challenges, and what it took to keep the business going. So grandma had her business for 45 years, and mom is right around 50 years. So we've got some longevity. As far as functional medicine, I became a chiropractor a little over 20 years ago. And I had a nice big practice and an insurance, and I'd fight in court for patients and workers' comp and PI and the whole thing. Of course, after that, I said, I'm never going to do insurance again. And I was really like the geeky type of chiropractor. I know there's a million different types. So I published in peer-reviewed journals and, did all sorts of different things. But I had a car accident that took me out of chiropractic. So for many, many years, I'm still letting people in, so that's why I'm looking up. For many years, I had a completely different business. I had a client base of over 20,000. I helped corporations and business owners, and the vast majority of my clients were physicians and health and wellness practitioners. And I helped them build their business, do branding, do marketing, sales, speaking. And then I also created the world's first visual personality profiling system, which was published by McGraw-Hill out of New York. So, and I used to teach on that a lot. I'm not teaching on that tonight, but I have before. So if you're interested, that's fun. We do actually use it as a marketing tool and a patient communication tool. And I've shared never before published information on how to avoid conflict with patients and get better patient compliance. Anyway, that's getting into the clinical side of things. So I had that business for years, loved it, thought that was all I would do. And then I got terribly sick. Like, I know some of you have had some type of healing crisis, and that led you to functional medicine. And that was the same for me. So initially I was a really good little patient. I did everything I was supposed to. And then I just got sicker and sicker. I had 7 specialists, 8 prescriptions, a medical treatment that cost over $700,000 a year. And I was in the hospital every 3 weeks. It was just a nightmare. So I know what it's like to be really, really sick. And I was also declared permanently disabled, so by Social Security. So to come back from that is a big deal. And I did. And I went back to school and learned functional medicine, reactivated my license. It started with investigating what the heck was going on with me, because no one else was figuring it out. And it took a while to do all that research, but I did figure it out and got better. And so then I opened, it was just going to be a tiny little practice. And it was so scary because I was on Social Security. So you're talking I was a single mom living at like $1,000 a month. I mean, it was just nuts. And I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. So it was really scary just signing like a $700 a month lease for 6 months. I mean, honestly, I was panicked, right? But it's been profitable from day one, and I've done all cash. And the first 6 months I had a huge practice explosion. I had to move locations. And then the next 6 months I did. So twice in the first year, I had to move locations and expand, go from 4 walls to 22 walls, and then multiple practitioners. And that first year I made about, I don't know, maybe 240,000 all cash, never seeing patients face to face more than 5 to 7 hours a week for nutrition and functional medicine. So these decisions you make can really make or break your business. Long story short, I had an in-person practice for years, brick and mortar. It was a lot of fun. Saw the writing on the wall the last 2 years a little early. So I went virtual even before California. So people thought I was nuts, but I was like, it's going to get weird here. And I took everything virtual. So I have that experience, and I've helped a lot of practitioners do it too. And I love being virtual now. So, and I know that's something Scott can help with too, making sure you're in regulation there. Anyway, that's a little snapshot. I hope that's enough to get you going. My favorite thing is to teach. If I could do nothing but teach all the time, I'd be absolutely thrilled. It's a joy. Any other questions you have that I didn't answer, please just ask me at the end. Okay, let's dive in here. So a little quote I wanted to share, and as I'm sharing this, I would love it if in chat you would put like what you think financial freedom is, because I'm gonna tell you what I think it is, but I want to know what you think it is. So one of the quotes I shared is, being rich is having money, being wealthy is having time. I like that. I think that's a good perspective. I also added, of course, from the functional medicine perspective, that being happy is having your health, right? If you don't have good health, you can't enjoy being rich or being wealthy or giving back or playing with your kids or the 2 new crazy puppies that I just got last week. I don't recommend 2 at the same time. But I'd like to see, what do you think financial freedom is? Because hopefully as you're working, you're doing something you love. I think we spend so much time in our life working, we should have the privilege of doing something we enjoy. But of course, we have to make a living, we have to take care of our family, you have to have a profitable practice, otherwise the doors don't stay open. So what does it mean to create financial freedom? So I'd love to see what you think. All right, where do you get your advice? This is something else I want you to think about. And of course, this is life, money, practice. It's also who you surround yourself with. Little quotes like, oh, your intelligence is the average of the 5 people you hang around. I think that stuff's mostly baloney. But the company you keep and who you get your advice from, we can be very susceptible to feedback, especially by loved ones and family. And maybe you already had this experience where you went into functional medicine or you have some other alternative care that you practice and your family was like, what are you doing, right? So maybe you've already experienced some of that, but especially when you go out and you're doing something bold and you're doing something new, you have to be mindful of who you're talking to, because you don't want to get swayed in the wrong direction. You don't want to get discouraged, right? I see some of you are answering financial freedom, being able to decide what you want to do and have choice, having money and time, being able to work as much or as little as you want and have balance. I think these are all great, really, really good. I agree. Sometimes, depending on the week, I think it's like having 5 million in the bank, just depends on what's going on that day. I guess I would say overall, I agree with who I use as a business coach. I have a 7-figure business, and it's not the first time I have. And I have a coach that costs 6 figures a year, so it's not cheap. But she says, and I agree, true financial freedom is knowing that it could all go away today and you could get it all back tomorrow. So really, financial freedom is a skill set. And aside from that skill set, it's then a mindset, right? So, and maybe you've seen this, like I think of this good friend I knew, she's a physician. So I'm saying you have all the keys to the castle, right? This isn't someone I've coached. I wish I had. I would have had her do it differently, but this is a friend. And so she's a physician and she went through IFM. So she's fully certified and did all of A4M, many things, and tried working with others and having her own practice multiple times in a really great area. And she just couldn't make it work and had to fold up. And it's like, why? Why does that happen? And then why is there someone else, like me, where I was terribly sick and I had to start with nothing and then I succeed and it keeps growing? Or someone else, they work in one field and then another field and then they move to another state or they're in another country and they always succeed. What is the difference? The people themselves, they aren't that special. I think it's really understanding what I call the business of health. So we're about to dive into that. One other thing I'll say about this, and we'll touch on this a bit more, because when I said, where do you get your advice? There's so many like great podcasts and stuff out there. But you have to be careful, just like we tell our patients with Dr. Google. You can get really conflicting advice. And what I'm going to say, I'm going to pick on one that's good, okay? Dave Ramsey. So some of you might love Dave Ramsey. Don't shoot me. But some of the advice Dave Ramsey gives is excellent. And it is excellent for like the average consumer in America. But I just want to say to you, everyone on here who's working in functional medicine, you are not Dave Ramsey's client. You are completely different. And if you start to understand that, you'll get what I'm talking about. There's different rules when you're a business owner. And not only are you a business owner, but most of you are physicians, right? You're some level of medical provider. So you have like two really wonderful things you can leverage. You're in a different realm. And if you get that, you're going to be able to build whatever you want. Okay, let's start talking about the pitfalls. And by the way, if you put a question in and I don't answer it right now, I'm going to come back and answer it in the Q&A. So you're welcome to put them in the chat right now if you don't want to forget about them, or you can write them down on a piece of paper and I'll just answer them live at the end. Okay, so 3 pitfalls. I probably could have done more, but what are like the 3 biggest ones that I see? And number 1 is the plan. And you've probably heard, failure to plan is planning to fail. Okay, whatever. That's a cliche. I sort of get it. But more specific is having a poor plan. Some people just can't have the vision, and that's okay as long as you're working with someone or you're in community, or maybe it's another family member, someone who can help hold the vision. So even if you don't create it, that's fine, but you eventually have to get the vision. And some people, I have a lot of ADHD people in my life, some people, they're not good with the executive function, right? They're not good at laying out the plan. Maybe they have the vision, but they don't know how to implement it, or they don't know the order. So I'm going to actually talk about the order when we get to the 5 steps, because this is essential. So it's not just a plan, but it's really the right plan. And let me say one other thing about this. This is not like, I'm not going to sell you at the end, oh, buy my plan and here it is on a handout, this is the 25-step plan you need and everyone's going to be a millionaire. That's baloney. Because just like our patients need customized care, that's what functional medicine is about, right? Not everyone metabolizes the same, right? They're not going to need all the same meal plan. The plan is not going to be the same for all of us. So even like when I work with my really elite practitioners in mentorship, I might walk them through pricing. In fact, I would love, even right now, if you have an issue with pricing, tell me in the chat what the issue is, because maybe we'll have time to do a little coaching on that. But I have a whole formula I use for pricing. The formula is a helpful guide, but at the end, everyone gets a different answer. And that's really important to know, because it has to be built around you. And that's my next point here, is when things are not customized to you. So you can learn wonderful things from me, from someone else, but if you try to be someone else, you're not going to be happy. So when I actually do pricing with my practitioners, the first thing I ask them is, how many hours a week do you want to work? And most people, that's not their first question, and that's not where they go. But I want to know that. How many hours a week do you want to work? And then number 2, what are your income goals? Even if it's initial income goals and you've got like 3 or 4 different levels you want to work with, fine. Let's do the initial income goals. And based on that, that actually tells me how many hours a week you're going to see patients and what you're going to price your services for. And then it's so much easier. I know a lot of people are really scrambling, like, this person in my area charges this amount, and what about insurance, and all these other kinds of things. And honestly, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it's like at the bottom of the list. So it's not where you consider how you're going to work. And we do want to make sure we reach your patients. We want to make sure it's going to work for your patients, but it has to work for you first. I've been sick, and I do live with an immunodeficiency, so I know what it's like to, and now I have puppies, right? So I know what it's like to have to structure your life and your practice around things that are going on. I have some doctors I work with that some have autoimmune disorders, and that's what got them into functional medicine, but they can't have a high volume practice. Or I've got some where they're caring for a relative, or they have babies. I've got some that are newer young moms. So we have to make this work. And just like happy patient, right? Happy doctor, happy life. Systems, I know it's so boring to talk about systems, but systems are everything. And the more I can get someone in the beginning and get this set up right, the happier we're all going to be. And I've done this too. I've done it wrong before. like let me rush. I've had times where I didn't work with a coach because I'm like, I know this, I do it all the time. And it's a little bit harder, I'll just be honest. There's some things where I was like, oh, I reinvented the wheel and I didn't need to, or I got in the weeds, because sometimes you just can't have that perspective for yourself. And anyway, having systems will be essential for your business. And if you can set them up in the beginning correctly, then it's that much easier when it gets busy, when you scale, when there's something challenging. Comparison, I already touched on a little bit. You can't really compare yourself to someone else, and it can be very despairing, if you do that. So don't worry about that. You can really build whatever practice you want. Competition, I don't really believe in competition. There's so many people who need functional medicine. We could all have practice on the same street and it would be fine. Not only would we have plenty of patients, but it would almost be like this great advertising and marketing effort. Oh my gosh, there's 8 functional medicine practices all within the same block. What's going on with functional medicine? Maybe I should check it out, right? So don't worry about competition. The truth is, and I know this is something Scott says because I've heard him say it, you can't see all the patients that you want to see. You only have enough time in the day. And it doesn't take that many patients. It's better to do a really good job with less patients than to worry about having a ton. And you don't have to have that many patients to have a really wonderful practice. And part of the reason why I really love Scott is I've worked with a lot of different attorneys, and I trained for, I don't work for anyone else, but I've trained for a lot of like lab companies and supplement companies, and I've checked a lot of the other trainers in the field, and some of them honestly teach crap that puts your license at risk. And Scott doesn't do that, and I really appreciate that. There's no need to do it. The people who are doing it, they're coming from fear and lack, and they don't think they're going to make it, and that's baloney. So don't listen to anyone out there who tells you it's just a matter of risk. Just accept the risk and go practice across state lines and whatever. Don't do that stuff. Okay, and then insecurity. This is something I talk to doctors all the time, and all practitioners. I mean, just today I was talking to a mental health practitioner, an emergency room doctor. I talk to ER doctors all the time. We just get along so well. I don't know what it is. I love them. I talked to a lot of functional nurse practitioners. I talked to a chiropractor earlier. So this just is like all day long, right? I do this. And I will tell you honestly that everyone, even my surgeons, and I'm not going to say names, but when we're talking behind closed doors, it's just the two of us, they all say they have imposter syndrome, or they're nervous, they don't know enough, they don't think they have enough training. These are people like multiple board certifications. They've already gone through like 3 different FM programs. They know plenty. They might not have been taught how to put it into practice. That's one of my specialties. But part of it is they're delaying. They're using this to hold them back. And I try to point out to them, they left so much money on the table by not starting, but they also left so much experience on the table by not starting, because the best learning curve is being in it. So I like to get everything set up, the plan, as well as we can. And when I work with people, like I have a very soft, gentle business plan. We call it the 11 pillars, because I know some of you're like, business plan, forget it. I've been doing this a long time. My 11 pillars have been used for over 15 years. It's a really soft, gentle way to know what the heck you're doing and figure out your plan and your business. But anyway, it will get you started. It will get you feeling comfortable. It will get you earning. We'll create the best plan we have and we can. And then when you're in it, there's going to be things you discover. One example is someone says she wants to specialize in menopause, and then she's like, I hate menopause. I don't want to talk to menopausal women all day long. Okay, fine, we can course correct. Someone else said, I was gonna, do this thing, and I was gonna be the one doing the intake, and now I want health coaches to do it. Whatever it is. Or my system for ordering labs is awful. It's taking way too long. So there's things you learn by doing. But when you have the plan and you have the support, the insecurity goes away. All right. Second pitfall is the money. Sometimes even just saying money really freaks people out. I don't know if you saw, but I did a call, a couple things a couple weeks ago about money and really getting into that. So spending money in the wrong places, that's probably the thing I see the most often. They think they need to hire a marketing company or a branding company or spend a lot on a website, or they need to invest in doing a podcast or all this crazy stuff that maybe could be helpful later, but they're not there. I didn't hire a branding company until I was at 7 figures. Why do it beforehand? It's ridiculous. I could teach you how to do it simple and easy enough to make your, first 500,000 easy. And then the truth is, just like I gave the example, you might change your mind. So why would you hire a branding company in the beginning when you don't really even know enough about what you like or don't like? So you're going to waste all that money. So there's really important things we have to think about. Same with a marketing company. What you do in your practice and your marketing message, they're two different things. They're not the same thing, because your marketing message has to be simplified. Your functional medicine practice is more complex than that, right? It's way more complex than your marketing message. You're looking at the whole person, the whole body. But if you go out and start talking that way, if you start talking the way we do in our clinical consults, forget it. It's going to be crickets out there. And you're going to have an empty practice, and you're going to wonder why you spent all this money and why you spent all this time and this whole functional medicine thing's not working, right? So you have to have a very clear marketing message. It needs to be honest. It needs to be not creepy and sleazy or salesy, but it has to be focused. So this is something I have to work with my practitioners a lot, and it has to be in a language the patients can hear. Okay, wasting money. I talked a little bit about that. It won't always be this way. That's another important concept. Something my family drilled into my head is, when business is down or when business is up, it's not going to always be that way. And this is a really important lesson. So you have to prepare for those other times. And, when it's down, you don't stop. You need to figure out how to fix it. I'm really good at that. But also when it's really high, you need to not be extravagant, right? You need to know what you have to save for and how to leverage and how to scale, because to assume that it's always going to be like 1,000% growth month after month, no, that's not going to happen, right? Prepare for adversity. I teach that, and that's more than just, have 6 months of expenses in the bank. Thinking like an employee, that is a mistake. You're a business owner. You cannot think like an employee. I've got a question. Thoughts on having a business coaching group at the onset with practice setup? Is it worth the investment? If it's the right one, it's something I do, but I can tell you, even the coach I work with, that I spend a lot of money in, with whom I adore, and who's a friend and colleague from years ago, spoke on my stage like 11 years ago. They don't specialize in functional medicine, so I have to translate everything. So finding someone who really understands business and functional medicine, and someone that you connect with, so they have to have integrity, interview them. So yes, I think it's a very worthwhile investment if you know what you're getting. So just like everything, you have to make sure. Pretty much like legal, business advice, and a lease if you're going to do in person. Those are the essential steps. The essential expense in the beginning. For the most part, everything else can wait. I'm thinking like an employee. We can talk a bit more about that, but an entrepreneurial mind and a business owner mind is drastically different. And then playing small. That sort of goes with thinking like an employee, but unless you're making a very conscious effort, like you want to build your practice just to a certain amount, that's fine. That's a choice. That's one of the lovely things about being a business owner, is you can always scale your business up or down. So great. But I don't want you to be stuck where you would like something more and you have drive and ambition, and you can't get it because you're playing small. So that's the context that I'm saying that in. And just remember, this is why I said the Dave Ramsey thing. With your position as a healthcare provider, working independently, being an entrepreneur, you are positioned to do things very differently. And a lot of times we talk about the big health impact and what you can do for your patients in your community. Absolutely. But tonight's call isn't about that. It's the big financial changes you can create in your life and for your family. So there's just so many different advantages you have. Okay, last one, 3 practice pitfalls, the isolation. And some of you may have recently come from a school setting where you, I don't know, you were tested, right, in a closed room, or you were in a vacuum. Like, it was just, what did you know and what could you remember? Real life is not like that. And being in a practice is not like that. First of all, it's an open book test. Even my certification program, I make it an open book test because I'm not at all interested in what you can remember by yourself. What I want to know is, can you find the answer? If you can find the answer, you're in good shape. And the other thing is, you don't have to do it alone. You can have advisors, and that could be your community, or you could be in practice with other people or collaboration. I mean, there's just a lot of other ways to be connected. And you're here. I mean, even right now in this moment, we have a little bit of a community and a connection here. So kudos to that, right? Collaboration, I mentioned. Coach, we talked a little bit about it. I'm happy to answer more questions. I've worked with many different ones, and I've coached many other people. So I'm happy to answer questions, give advice and feedback. Community, I talked a bit about getting your questions answered. I think that's really important. For my clinic, I have a multidisciplinary clinic. It's called Body Love Cafe. It's in California, but we work in many states, whatever the practitioner is licensed in, right? They can see patients in that state. And, we collaborate, we connect, and I do what I call practitioner questions several times a week. So the physician and the chiropractor and the registered dietitian and the health coaches and the admin team, we all get on there. We answer questions, we go over labs, right? We talk about cases and protocols. I do the same thing for those in my mentorship. So several times a week, we're live and they can bring any question. So we do clinical consults all the time. They just black out patient information. We go over labs, protocols, histories. And then we also do practice questions. On one day, I might be analyzing someone's logo and talking about their website. Another one, we're talking about intake forms. Another one, we're talking about how to give a presentation in the public and attract new patients, or the marketing message. I mean, it goes on and on. All right, having a team and scaling. This is a little bit more in depth, so I'm going to come back to it a bit, but the team is, who are you going to hire? Who are you going to have work for you? Maybe it's a VA, maybe it's someone in person, and then scaling. How big do you want your practice to get or not? Some of you have big dreams, right? Some just are like, oh my gosh, if I could make 6 figures, that would be huge. I mean, I can get people on track for that in 2 months, right? If they're motivated. A couple months if we need a little bit longer. Some people, it's multiple 6 figures. Some people, they have a vision of, I want to have multiple clinics, brick and mortar, right? Or I want to create a certification program. So whatever you want to dream, that's fine, but we just have to build it. Okay, so how do we thrive and succeed? Those were the pitfalls, right? Overall, big sort of pitfalls. Is there a good Facebook community where FM providers can collaborate? Yes, there's many. Sometimes I find people get a little mean, and I don't like that. Sometimes I call them on it. Sometimes I say, forget it. I don't want to be on Facebook. If you're an IFM, they have a good group. We have one, Functional Medicine Academy. Those are for people in our program. But we do have another one that's for just open to everyone. So if you can find a group where practitioners are in there, you're welcome to be in ours, where they're respectful and questions are welcome, then I would say go for that. If it's one of those where everyone's posturing and trying to pretend they know so much and step on other people's toes, just get out of that. It's like an ugly feeling, and that can ruin your day. Okay, let's talk about the tips. All right, 5 steps to success. Yes, we have an open group. At the end, I'll give you the exact link. An open group means like you don't have to be in a paid program. Any functional medicine provider can be in there. So it's just open, easy to join, and everyone's welcome. The paid program is closed because we're giving higher level content and sharing little secrets, right? Okay, 5 steps to success. Number 1 is the order. So this relates to the plan, right? The order, first things first. This is executive functioning. And just like I told you with pricing, I ask, how many hours do you want to work and what are your income goals first? I have to know that because it's like a dominoes. That's going to impact all these other decisions. A lot of people don't do that. They pick a price based on what the other functional medicine doc in their town does. That's not going to work. Some people, I gave the example, they start a podcast, but they don't have any patients yet. This is a big mistake. Podcasts take a lot of time. And if you're going to bring people in, it's slow. You know what you need for a podcast? Volume. And if you're new, you do not have volume. So you're not ready for a podcast. You could be a podcast guest. We could get a great little talk together for you and you could go talk. That'd be wonderful. But having a podcast is not right. So again, first things first. And in the beginning, like let's say, let me give you another example. Someone's starting and they just came out of working in the hospital, right? So this is their first time being in private practice. They haven't been a business owner before. And they say, well, I want to have, I want to have a membership site that's a group and it's low cost and a lot of people can be in it. I'm going to have some key information in it. And that's what they start. And they are going to hate life because they don't have any volume. And they're going to work so hard to try to fill this thing that is low cost and they just don't have the reach yet. And they're going to be disappointed. They're going to say, I don't understand why. I spent all that money on ClickFunnels and I paid for all these Facebook marketing programs and they promised that I would get rich doing this. And, but they just don't tell you the truth. You have to build a business a certain way. And especially in the beginning, the first thing you want to fill is your one-on-one with your patients for so many reasons. It's your higher level. It's what's going to pay. You need the experience. Don't even think about a group until we get your one-on-one practice 80% filled. Okay. Now that's different than having a program that you offer patients. That's completely different. But some of these group things, it just comes later. So the order really matters. I'm still letting people in. Executive functioning I talked about. Now don't feel bad if you're not great at executive functioning. I'm expert at it. Or someone else in your life, right? That's okay. If it's your skill set, fabulous, then use it. You just need to know the right order. And if it's not your skill set, you need a buddy to help you with this. Like my husband has the worst ADHD ever. I'm not spreading any rumors. It's the kind of thing where everyone in the world knows. That's how bad it is. And so, he's the kind where he needs he needs routine. He needs executive functioning. Like you write the note, and then you take a picture of it and text him the note. And then you have 3 reminders along the way. And then we hire an assistant to help. So anyway, I joke about it and 4 trips to the grocery store to get the same thing. But the truth is, I don't care what limits or challenges you have. I really don't. There is some way we can make it work. My ADHD husband, by the way, is absolutely brilliant, super talented, big vision guy, can fix anything, right? So some of you are like that too. You have some great skill sets and other areas you need more support. But this is essential, and that's why I put it number 1. Knowing the order. And this is part of why I was able to build a business so fast, even when I was coming back from having been so sick for years. I knew the order to build a business, and I knew how to build a business without any debt. Now, if you were going to go into debt, your lease, your lawyer, and a good business coach, I don't throw that term around casually. That's the only thing I would consider going in debt for. There's nothing else that you should even consider it. And I have started multiple businesses without any debt at all. Okay, I put here profit versus debt. It's not just a new thing, it's down the road. It's very common for people to get in what I call the weeds. I've done it before too. And that's part of why I said I will never not have a coach again. Because quite honestly, like I can have passion projects. Like my business will get so efficient, I get bored. So then I'm going to start this and I'm going to start that. And a coach will help keep me on track, right? Make sure I don't go too far off. And I really know how to budget my time. That's very important. So even later on, when everything's thriving, a lot of people create debt for themselves and then crash their practice because they say, well, now I'm going to franchise, but they weren't ready to franchise. Like things were going really well for them, but there's another step they need to do, right? They have to actually perfect their systems. They have to document it. They have to work with one person to make sure they can replicate it before you think of things like that. So anyway, I'm not going to tell you everything because I know it's too overwhelming, but just know the order matters. And success versus struggle. It is always hard work. Anyone who says it's easy is lying to you. It's work. But when you're building your own thing, it can be really joyful work. I mean, some days will be crappy, but you're building your own thing. You get to help people. Honestly, this is my favorite thing, and I've done a lot of different things. I love teaching people how to build a functional medicine practice. On both sides of it, this is so thrilling. You get to help people. You get to work with complex cases. Even if you're doing simple digestion, like for so many people, that's life-changing. No one's ever told them that. And then you're building your own business and all the like freedom and dare we say tax advantages you get. I mean, it's just really awesome. Okay, let me keep going. I'm going to get too poetic about it, but I love it. Okay, number 2, the focus. I talked a little bit about that, about not getting in the weeds. Someone once said, you can't see the label when you're inside the bottle. I love that. I've used that with patients who like Google and they're like, oh, I need antioxidants, and then, oh, I need a digestive aid. They look up everything, they find a good article, and next thing you know, they've got 30 different supplements, and they were all bought from GNC, and they come in to see you because they have a huge bellyache, right? So anyway, you can't see the label from inside the bottle. Same thing with the business. So you need to have, someone who's helping you in that way. Oh, I love this. Scott said, I just had a provider trying to build a course before even opening a practice. No, 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 no. And I will teach you a completely different way to build a course that will be paid for before you build it. So much better ways to do these things. I have never, and let me repeat, never in this business and all the other ways I've served people, I have never had to pay to build a course. It's always been paid for. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Let's get excited. I love business building. Okay, so the focus. Now let me talk about the calendar briefly. I can tell I'm like, God, I gotta talk faster. I'm sorry, I try to make the content smaller, but I really love this stuff and I get excited. Okay, the calendar is super, super important because first of all, you can only work so many hours in a day. We do have to have a life, and there will be times where you have to work more and things are gonna get a little out of balance. If that's short term, I don't care, but it has to come back in balance. And it's not like this pie where everything's even. And yeah, I will. We'll do it in the Q&A, Jess, absolutely. So we're like, kids have this amount of pie and partner has this amount and cooking in the kitchen has this amount and business has this amount. Sometimes, I love how one woman said it. She's like, sometimes the business takes up a bigger piece and sometimes the kids take up a bigger piece, right? So that's fine. But the calendar I'm talking about is most people in business waste their time on the wrong thing. They're doing it all wrong. Whether you have only 10 hours a week to work or you have 40 hours a week, whatever it is, there's going to be a smaller percentage where you are seeing patients, that face-to-face, that delivery. There's going to be a certain amount where you have to prep for it. You have to get really efficient. I love teaching my practitioners how to be super efficient with charting. And I have mastered this because that's the one big complaint in functional medicine. I know I keep going to clinical, please forgive me, but I'm doing clinical all the time too. They spend too much time on a patient, right? They get their first patient, the patient has 5 labs, and they're like, oh my gosh, I spent 10 hours preparing a report of findings for this patient. So I am all about efficiency. No way. I created a lab diagnosis software tool because of this. It was completely selfish. It was just because I needed to be more efficient. Now we use it for other practitioners too. But anyway, so you have a certain amount of time. I'm gonna say one more thing about charting. When you're done with the visit, the chart's done. That's one of my specialties. My nurses love that, right? Because they were having hours of charting after visits. Okay, so part of that is spent on charting. Then there's a certain percentage for admin and running things. And then there's a big percentage for marketing, probably not the way you think, talking to people, following up. That's the biggest part, especially in the beginning. And then as you grow, that changes. So I can tell you different phases, but the vast majority of people do not set up their calendar correctly. And if I was going to summarize it and make it simple, I would say they don't set up their calendar to make money. And you just have to. And if even saying the word money freaks you out, I understand you. I've worked with a lot of people like that. I used to be you. We can handle that on a different day. But you have to set up the calendar to make money first, or you're not even going to need to do the other hours in the calendar, right? No one's going to be there. So focus on key activities, avoid distractions. There's techniques I teach people. This is a time management thing and lots of tips and tricks. Again, not the same answer for everyone. By the way, multitasking, total baloney, doesn't work. Just give you that as a tip. Avoid too many choices in the beginning. This isn't just for you. And I'll just say sometimes, when I start working with people, they're in 5 programs. And it's like, and sometimes they're even good programs, but it's not the right order. I'm like, we need to do all these other things first, and then that one you need to shelf it. We'll go back to it. This one, I don't even know what you were thinking. We don't need that. This other one's good. Maybe in 2 years, So anyway, you have to avoid distractions like bright shiny lights. Same with the patient, right? You've all had those patients come in and they have like 5 practitioners at the same time, and they're following 6 different podcasts and doing a different diet every day. Avoid too many choices, too many offerings in your business in the beginning. That's going to make it too complicated. You don't want to grow without systems and strategy. I love growth. I'm all for growth. We have to have systems and strategy. Otherwise, you're going to make your life miserable. You're going to grow. You're not going to be ready. You're going to always be coming from behind. You'll be scrambling. People will start to get upset because you're not delivering well. And you'll be trying to find help. You'll have to spend a lot of money you don't need to because you weren't ready to grow. And then avoid the big toys if you skip the basics. This is like SEO. You do not need SEO in the beginning. No one's going to find you. Don't spend money on it. You're not ready. You typically don't even need a Facebook ad in the beginning. And a Google ad. That's a good way to lose a lot of money. I already told you don't need the podcast. You don't need the brander, all these kinds of things. So avoid the big toys. You're not there. All right. Number 3, the intention. This is a very important step to success. And this is in everything. It's, what drives you, what motivates you. First of all, everyone in my programs, they're cool. So if you're not cool, don't come. Everyone's awesome. They all have integrity. Those are the only people I work for. I work with. And like sometimes when I talk for lab companies or supplement companies and stuff, I choose who I work with. There's people I've told no. I had one company, I'm not gonna say their name, they're very, very big, but they tried to hire me away and were willing to pay a lot more to not work with someone else. And I was just like, that's disgusting and gross. I'm not gonna do that. So there's a lot of yuckiness out there. So just be cool, have integrity. You don't have to do anything risky or uncomfortable or yucky. I mean, maybe a little uncomfortable as far as like getting out of your comfort zone and talking to people, but nothing that would make it where you can't sleep at night. And know your why behind everything. This is essential for you to start, and then you need to know this for your patients. Like if someone comes in and they say they want to lose weight, okay, what's the why? Well, I just want to look better in clothes. Okay, well, why? You start digging deeper, and it turns out that they had an awful divorce. They're just starting to go back on the dating market. There's some like PTSD from being in relationships again. And this is about feeling comfortable in their body. If you know their real why, you can be a much better practitioner. And so for yourself, you need to be why. It's not enough to say you want to help people. That's not enough of an answer. If you want to help people, I would want to really know why. Were you the eldest sibling and it was bred into you? Was someone mean to you and sort of held you down or didn't let you progress, and now you want to help others? Is it because you want to be liked? That's okay. Maybe it's not even the most, the best reason, but there is a why. I want to know what it is. It's going to be important. You want to know it for yourself, and there's going to be a why for everything you do. We always want to work for the patient's highest good. That's going to drive a lot of our decisions, especially our clinical decisions. Clinical mastery, you want to get so good at what you do, you're bored. And then I will help you. I've been there. I've been bored, and I've made good decisions and I've made bad decisions. Now I know how to always make good decisions. I can help you with that. But my business coach made me watch, and I did not watch much of it, but it was some Japanese name I'm going to mess up. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. But his name, I think Yuri or something like that, or Yoshi, forgive me for getting it wrong, loves sushi. And I hate slow, artsy documentary films. But it was all about mastery, and mastering something to the point that you have boredom. That's true mastery. But it doesn't mean you give up. And the enemy is not the boredom or the mastery, it's complacency. So knowing what to do next is key. It's not a solo test. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. So it's not like, oh, I built the best practice all by myself. Who cares, right? Like, in fact, needing help and needing other people, like I just hired a COO for my clinic, needing other people is great, because not only are you in community, but now what you started and what you built is helping take care of someone else, right? And change their life. Okay, I'm about to sneeze. Where did it go? All right, maybe it'll come back. Okay, and then marketing message, this is key. I could teach for hours on this, so I can't go too deep into that, but you can ask me questions at the end. Let me just say almost everyone gets it wrong. It's just normal. Someone said, how long should you work with a business coach before being ready to open a practice? Well, I think you should work with a business coach until you out-earn them. My business coach makes $7 million a year, so I will keep her until I make over $7 million a year, and then I'll get the next one. So as long as they're good, right? If they're bad, yuck, don't work with them. As long as they're good and they continue to help you, then you use all their advice and everything they can help you with until you out-earn them. And then how long do you have to work with them before being ready to open a practice? I can get a highly motivated person ready to open in 2 months. Someone who's slower, about 6 months. That's me. You have to ask the other coaches how they do it. Part of why I can do that, though, I will tell you, is because I know the stuff you don't need to do. I know what you actually need to get into practice and the correct order. And then I also know how to start getting new patients, right? Okay, step number 4, steps to success, know your numbers. And some people, I say know your numbers, you don't even know what it means, but let me just give you one example. Let's say we generically call it a no-charge consult. Let's say patients are going to call your office. Maybe it's 10, 15, 20 minutes. They're going to have a no-charge consult. They want to know, like, who are you? Do I even like the sound of your voice? Have you worked with someone like me before? How would you help me, right? They're auditioning you to see if they even want to like dip their toe in. And you need to know, first of all, where those people come from and how many people call. And then from that call, how many people become an initial patient. These are some of your numbers. And then you know your conversion rate. Then you know if you're doing a good job or not. And there's so many different numbers to know. We're talking mostly business. We're talking about financial numbers. But even in clinical practice, there's numbers. What percentage of patients get better? How long does it take for them to get better? What patients stay with you? How long do they stay with you? All these things. But this is the business of health. And then once you know your numbers, we can have a goal. In fact, even before you're in practice, one of my favorite things to do is once we've figured out what your price is, what you need to charge for your services, we know exactly how many patients you need. And then depending on how soon you want to get to your goal, I will actually tell you how many people you need to talk to every day, every week, and every month. And once we know how many people you need to talk to, then we know how many people you need to get in front of to then be able to talk to these people. So really, it becomes about math. So there's no way you can fail if you do these steps. The only way you can fail is just to not do it. Okay, so essential to creating results, having freedom. I think I got most of those. Let's keep going. And then step number 5 is this is a business. You need to treat it as a business. Now, some people, especially like my chiropractor friends and acupuncturists and physical therapy, sometimes osteopaths that are doing the actual OMT, when you're doing like my dentist, when you're doing like a hands-on thing and you're going like higher volume from person to person, functional medicine is so different. And you may have been great in your business and had a really good business, but if it was just you doing it, you could only rise to the level of being a technician. So you were an amazing technician, and maybe you were even compensated well for that. But that's not a business. Don't throw tomatoes at me for saying it. I remember the first time I learned it, I was like, what? A business is different. And a business, it does give you financial freedom. It's also something that if you need to walk away from for a time, you can. Like I took a month off last May. It was glorious. I'm taking a month off in October. And when I take a month off, like I don't even have my phone. I tell people I am dead. They have to be on fire, and they'd have to like come over here on fire to get me. Like it's a real month off. I love it. And by the way, have you ever driven in your car without a phone? Forgot how to drive. Like first of all, it's boring. And then how do you even get around? But anyway, it's great. It's great to have downtime like that. So I'm talking about vacation, but there's much more to the business. Like how do you structure it? Even if you're going to be always a solo practitioner and you're wearing all the hats yourself, there's financial things, there's bookkeeping, there's taxes, there's legal issues, there's forms, there's HIPAA compliance, there's just things you have to handle as a business. All right, one of my staff members put this in here, and this is a little testimonial. If you want to see more about what I do, it's on the functionalmedicineacademy.com, and you can read lovely quotes that these people sent. So sweet. And some people like to talk with people I'm working with, and we have a number of them who say, yeah, have people call me. So if you're interested in working with me, but you want to talk to real human beings, we can do that. I wanted to share this, and then I'm going to go into Q&A. Part of why I wanted to share this is Functional Medicine Academy has never done this before. This is really sort of insane. And it was perfect timing to meet all of these wonderful people working with Scott, is they're doing 25% off, and it's 5 days only. So it's a very hard stop. And my financial team, they won't budge. I'm just letting you know that. But 25% off is a significantly crazy savings. And the things that I offer, I'm not going to give you the detailed version. You're welcome to ask me later. I just want to get to Q&A. But we have an online academy that's mostly clinical. It really does not replace, like I love IFM. I'm IFM certified, right? There's a lot of great programs out there. What it does, I think you sort of get my style already, but it's very practical. Like what do you do on Monday with this thyroid patient? What do you order and what protocol do you do? So it's all clinical, and there is one marketing class in there, like 8 hours of marketing. But anyway, it's clinical, it's online, very affordable, and the 25% off sale makes it crazy affordable. The mentorship, that's my favorite. I work live with practitioners, really help them build their business or start it or expand it. So most people are either new to functional medicine, even if they did medicine for 30 years already, they're new to functional medicine, or they're a couple years into their practice and they're realizing they're not growing the way they want, or they need to scale, or, they want to start doing telemedicine and they weren't, or they want to do membership, something like that. And I work live with them. So it's all about access. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing. It's just awesome. And that's, we're doing 3 months now. And then Dr. Z Masterclass, that is like a 1 day. So, and that's all business-based. So those are the things we have. If you're interested in chatting with me about it, we call it the discussion. And I love talking to people about their business. I have to be careful not to always get into coaching mode because we only have so much time. But honestly, I only need a little bit of information about you to know the vision and what you're capable of. And I get really excited about it. But if you want to schedule time to talk to me, you can do that. Or if you want to talk to my team, you can just email them, team@thefunctionalmedicineacademy.com. All right, let's do Q&A. So you can like raise your hand if you want. You know how to do that with, you go down to like the little emotions thing, or you can just type it into chat. Let me just see some of the ones that I had from before. I think I got the one, how long to work with a business coach before being ready to open a practice. I have a document I use with my practitioners called Business Basics 101. And there's about 8 steps that you have to do to be ready to open. So it's just how fast you get it done and you're ready to go. So you can do it as fast or as slow as you want. And then how you start working with people. I have some tips and tricks to making that happen in a way that's very user-friendly, builds your confidence, is also a marketing tool. It just works well. All right, at what point do you recommend doing Facebook and Google ads? We're 2 years into owning our clinic. So thank you for asking and congrats on 2 years. And the time doesn't matter so much. I mean, it's great 2 years in, don't get me wrong. To really answer that question, I would have to know like how many patients you see and what you earn and what your profit margin is. And then what is your goal for ads? Because and ads do different things. Like Facebook ads, those are really sort of unqualified leads. So if you want to sort of have a broader exposure, you could potentially build a list. It might not be the most responsive, and I use Facebook a lot. Or you want to fill a class, it can be helpful for that, but it's a very small percentage that's going to convert. So don't think that that's going to be a magic panacea, and a lot of times it's a great way to lose a lot of money. So you have to be very, very careful with that. I can tell you right now, I feel very comfortable universally saying this for everyone. Do not sign up and pay for a Facebook ad program. I can at least say that right now. Don't go spend thousands on here's how to do your Facebook ad and make your first million. Don't do that. And Google ads, they are more specific usually to location, and sometimes they work better for certain professions like chiropractor and dentist and acupuncturist and massage therapist. They can help with functional medicine. It's a little bit different. And then the thing with the Google ad is to get the best out of them, you have to be super responsive. So a lot of people will pay for these ads and then they don't realize, wait a minute, this Google ad is going to lead to a phone or an email. We have to respond very quick. And the people who typically get the best results, they actually have a team responding in the moment. So it's just it's a whole thing. So I don't want to tell you to do that without knowing more. So I'm not trying to give a vague answer. I don't want you to waste any money. I would rather like see what your website's like, and there's things you could do, you're 2 years in, there's things you could do for SEO now that wouldn't cost you anything. And there's ways you can start getting seen. But once I know your goals, I can give you much better techniques that don't cost money and will get people in. Is my sale going on now? It is, because I blabbed it earlier. I'm compulsively honest. If you ask me a question, I'm going to answer. And so I said it last night. I already told my team. Sorry, I told everyone. But yeah, I was working with some of my people last night and I told them. So the sale is officially next week. But yes, if you schedule and talk, there's people already signing up with my team. I will tell you that the academy and the masterclass, usually you can get in, not a problem. Mentorship gets full. So that does have limited space. And that's my favorite one. Yes, free events can be great on Facebook. And there's a lot of tips and tricks to how to be seen on Facebook and in groups, and then group rules and pages and all that. And some of the best results are free, but they take time. So that's another thing. We have to like sort of weigh time versus money. In the beginning, usually you have more time and less money. So depends on where you're at. Is the mentorship clinical and business 3-month duration? Yes, it is. So Academy is mostly clinical, and it's awesome. I'm totally biased, but I'm not the only one saying it. It's like the first visit. How do you, do exams with your patients, report of findings, communicate with them? What forms do you use? Then it's 16 hours, everything you'll need to know about gut health in your practice. Functional gut health, it's all there. I'm one of the world's experts in SIBO. Like, I know the stuff inside and out. I could teach it in my sleep. I've seen the most complex, crazy patients that used to fly in from other states. I mean, it's really, if I told you what people pay to see me, you would be offended. It costs more than being in my practitioner program. Okay, I'll just let you know. So it's offensive. Okay, so that's the academy and tons of resources. Oh, I didn't say the rest of it. 8 hours on hormones, 8 hours on cardiometabolic, 8 hours on obesity, nutrition, 8 hours on marketing, more marketing than you'll ever need. So if you do take it, don't think you have to like do all that all at once. That's enough marketing for the life of your business. And then masterclass is all business. So there's 3 of them. You could take one or other ones. One is practice setup, one is all practice marketing, and one is practice systems. And I know that doesn't sound exciting. I know the least amount of people go to practice systems. It always happens, but it's the best. And it's where you get the real freedom. And I've been on both sides of it where I had really good systems and then I was coming from behind, and nothing will make you secretly cry in your closet more than a business that doesn't have systems and you're being pulled in a million directions. Anyway, those are one-day events. And then mentorship, like we're always talking, like it's live, it's group, and we're doing, where the success is made. We're doing clinical and business all the time. So that's sort of the structure of it. Okay, what option would be good for guidance on building patience? Do you mean like, I'm sorry, Pearly, I don't know if it's a typo or maybe it's my brain, but do you mean like getting more patients, attracting? The mentorship would be the best for that, because that has everything in it, including the exact order to do it. If for some reason you didn't do mentorship, then the master class on marketing, that will help you. Let's see. Do you have a charting? Do you do your own charting, or do you have an assistant do it? I have done all of the above. I have done my own charting. I've had someone live in the room doing charting. I have, that was all brick and mortar, right? I've digitally, I love digital now. I used to be old school on paper. I just like writing, but I went digital. I had to like get 1,500 files scanned. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. Oh, thanks. One of my nurse practitioners is commenting. Who's in mentorship. So I really love digital now. I think there's so many advantages to it. I did a lot of research on what system to use. Now I help people use different systems, but I'll share the ones that I like the best. Some are very similar. But my favorite thing, this is what I try to teach people, is about 90 minutes maybe the day before to prep for the entire day of visits the next day, how to chart in the visit, which there's certain templates and things and auto populations and phrases and handouts you have to have ready. Again, these are systems, but do the work in the beginning, right? Build it and they will come. Do the work in the beginning and you're so much more efficient. You do all the charting in the visit. When you're done, you're done. That's my favorite thing. It's the end of the visit, you're done. And I've had, Dr. Tama, yay, welcome. So yeah, you snagged one of we're getting close to the last spots for this group, so good job. I've also worked with scribes, and I have resources for very wonderful, affordable scribes that are all medical professionals, HIPAA trained. This is something Scott can tell you too, like still having a business, BAA, business associate agreement with these people you hire is very important. We also have everyone sign personally owned devices, and they're working on their own laptop, all these things. There's a lot of legal stuff, right? That's his expertise, but you feel confident when you have someone who's going to help you with it. So don't let it stop you from doing what you need to do. It's just some boxes you have to check off, and then when it's done, right? So anyway, I've had a scribe like chart in visits for me. I've had a scribe prep the visits for me. Love it. We've recorded. I mean, I can tell you all different options. Just know it can be easier, and it should be easier, because you want to be the doctor or the practitioner as much as you can, and you can't get away from being the business owner. How much are master classes? Can they be purchased separately? Yes. I forgive me if I quote it wrong. You have to ask the team, but I think the master classes are like $9.29 for the day, and the sale means they're like $6.50, something crazy like that. And they're dense. I mean, you've seen me for an hour. Imagine me for 8. Okay, so let's see. More about telehealth for functional medicine from a legal perspective. Well, you're going to get it, Dr. Tama, because Scott's going to present for all of our people. I think, is it in August? Yeah, I think it's in the very beginning of August. So we should have a great group for that. I cannot wait. And I'm very picky about who I chose, and I chose Scott. So out of all the people, all the lawyers who do functional medicine or say they do it, he's the one I chose, okay? And he didn't ask me to say that. I'm just saying that. All right, can you have a successful business without hiring your own coaches? I want to outsource and refer to other independent coaches. Yes, absolutely. You mean in your practice? Yes, I would like to talk to you a bit more about what that looks like though, because how you build that, there's many different ways. There's ways that it could be profitable. You can't have any referral fees, right? As a practitioner, you can't pay or get paid for any referrals. So you can't do that. But yeah, sometimes you want to have your own coaches. Our coaches are employees in our practice. So they're certified. We do extra certifications for them. We do extensive training for them. I still train them every single week. They are legal employees. They all have malpractice insurance. I mean, this is why I chose Scott, right? We like to do things right so we don't have to worry about it. And it works so well. So I could actually tell you why I like your coaches to also be your admin team. So I have a lot of reasons for it. You don't have to do it that way. But the really short reason I would say is, isn't it nice when the people who like answer the phone and emails and do labs, like actually know healthcare and know the patients? And then isn't it nice if your health coaches or your people who know healthcare also know how your business runs? That's why I do it. That's the short version. Those people know all of it. Is my material downloadable to have as a reference after the course mentorship is done? Yes, you get a ridiculous amount of material, a ton of patient handouts. For example, my intake form is 14 pages long. We show you how to do it digitally, and it's a combination of 30 different intake forms over 6 years. So we think we've perfected it because we took our version and everyone else's version, it's the best of it, and put it together. I give my mentors the best of everything. So you know how you auto-populate a chart with protocols? We have 300 different supplements, name, dose, what they mean. You don't have to do it. We have it all done. What else? Like phrases, disclaimers, talking about protocols, talking about SIBO, talking about allergies, all these things, talking about lymphatic drainage, the mind diet, all these things. We have it all written out for you, so it's ready to auto-populate your chart. Last week, the people in my mentorship program, they were talking about labs. And I have a lot of lab experience, a lot of advice about how to do it or not do it. And I gave them an Excel grid with formulas with 60 different labs and what it costs and what, is it urine, is it serum or spot or saliva or whatever, stool, and is it fasting, what the markers are, what the patient cost is going to be, and how do you have the formula already built to do your own. What else did I give them? I gave them a questionnaire. We've used the question that came up. So basically, anytime someone has a question, so far I can answer them all, but if I can't, I'm going to go try to find the answer for you. I've just been doing this for a really long time. But also, if a question comes up and I have a resource to make your life easier, I share it. And the question came up, well, how do I differentiate which GI test to order? Like this patient comes in and they have these overlapping symptoms, and I'm thinking of 3 different GI tests in my mind. Which one do I pick? So I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to give everyone in the mentorship this handout, and you can use it for yourself or with patients. And it has these different symptoms and they can check it off, and certain key ones are in bold and they're organized by the test. So it can be, you still need to use your clinical judgment, right? You're seeing the person in front of you, but it's a very helpful tool because it's like, oh my gosh, they checked 2 things under oats and they checked 2 things under SIBO breath test. And we have like 15 things, checked under GI map stool test. So it can help you focus in that way. Let's see, where else did I go? Yeah, the pricing for mentorship or masterclass, we just do it in the call, especially with the sale, because everything's going to be 25% off. So it would be a lot of numbers. And some people get financing. Some people just put on a credit card and they save money. You've probably done this before. If you prepay, you save money. A lot of people do that and they love it. Some people do a payment plan with us. That's fine. We don't care. We have some that are 3 months up to 12 months. And then some people, they need a longer payment plan. Like they need a program that's $200 to $300 a month. So we don't do it, but we have a financing company and they can finance you for 2 to 5 years. So that's out of our expertise, but it does help some people get started. Academy pricing, you can see right on the website, but I would say don't pay for it because you get 25% off. So ask my office for the code to get 25% off. And so you don't have to pay that much. Let's see, what else? Is it okay to refer out coaching initially while you build a practice and hire your own staff later, or best to do it at the beginning? I would my first reaction would be that I would like to get you comfortable with doing it yourself, even if that means maybe we do it in a group format. Because are you not doing it yourself because you feel you don't have the time? That could be very likely. Or maybe you're not doing it yourself because you're saying, people are paying $300 or $600 or whatever an hour to see me, and I need them to have some coaching on meal plans and sleep, and I don't want to bring someone in for $600 an hour to coach them about a meal plan. Well, that's when you get more leverage. That's when you coach as a group, and then it can cost a lot less. But then your time is still compensated, and it's just a leveraged way to do it anyhow. So there's a couple ways to do that, and a lot more. Like I get really specific and individual with people, but in general, I would say, you could just teach an educational class and then no one has to be a patient. And if they are patients, they don't have to disclose their patients. They just attend the class and you give general coaching advice. Or if you want it more specific in group, then Scott will tell you there's some legal disclosures that people have to sign before they can participate in a group activity like that. But they absolutely exist. And there's even people who use insurance and bill it. There's codes for group visits. But you just have to you just have to make sure you check some legal boxes to be able to do that. But I don't want you to send everyone out the door initially, not unless I know more why. And then I might say like, okay, that sounds good. But otherwise, I wouldn't do that just yet. Can I talk about the lab test analysis software? Yes, I built the first one 6 years ago, and it was like 75 blood markers, and I built it just myself because I said, this is a lot of time. And I naively thought, I'm going to build this in a weekend, and then it took me 6 weeks to build it, but it saved me an incredible amount of hours over years. So then, and there's other ones out there. There's ones you can go buy right now that does blood. And some people like them. I have my own opinions. Some I think, honestly, they make them way too complicated. So anyway, I won't go there. But what I then did was I added stool tests and breath tests and urinalysis and oats and Dutch and IBS test and things like that. The tests that are most commonly used that I use because I wanted everything to be efficient then. So we're still, I'd say, like at least 2 months away from having that software be available to everyone. But we do have a sort of a concierge service that if you want it, we can actually do it for you. Otherwise, I just teach people how to do it and how to be quick. All right, let's see. Did I get all of them? Trying to scroll back. I think I got most of them. Oh yeah, the going into debt. I mean, ideally, I love people to not have any debt, but for some people, depending on where you're coming from, you can't start a business without debt. So it just depends. So if you have to, the only thing I would recommend going into debt for would be legal, lease, and a business coach. And note, I didn't say a clinical coach. I want your business coach to be able to do clinical too, because I don't think you should need to just hire a clinical coach. You have to get that business strategy with it. And then if you're going to do that, we put that in the numbers and in the goals, and how's it going to get paid off, and when is it going to get paid off, and all these things are really important to make sure it happens. The Facebook group, let me see if I can find it for you, and I will tell you what the name of it is, or just share the link. I'm Doc Zachary, so if you want to find me on Facebook, that's where I am. Hang on, I just lost my little window here. Let me try again. I have like 5 feet of screens, but now I do it vertically. So I used to have 5 feet this way. Now I have 2.5 feet stacked on top of each other. All right, so I'm going to find that for you. All right, thoughts on being in a recession economy and starting up a business right now. Does that affect pricing? Not necessarily. If you answer the questions I'm talking about and you do a good job, here's that link for that Facebook group. I just put it in. This is the open one for everyone. So any practitioner can get in that. I am talking about like recession and things like that because people are really worried about it. Your patients are worried about it, and I know you're worried about it. And I'm not like one of those, stick your head in the sand and it's just the secret and law of abundance. Not that those aren't good things, but I don't believe that you can just like wish and make these things happen, right? But if you do a good job and you deliver a good service and you structure it correctly and you know how to reach people, it doesn't matter what the economy is. And really, as a healthcare provider, you should do very well over the next couple of years. When my colleagues and friends were like folding their tent, let me just say, Functional Medicine Academy used to be exclusively licensed through another company. And part of why I said, you know what, I'm going to take this back and make it more available to everyone is because I saw what happened to people I know. And I was like, someone needs to help here. But when I saw people folding their tents and stuff, so 2020, was the worst. I kept all my employees on staff. I hired new ones, and I expanded, and I raised my prices twice in 2020. And everyone would have said, no, that's death, don't do it. And I found other ways to help my patients out and have them save money. So I did all of that at the same time, and you can do that. Is the mentorship 6 months or 3? We changed it to 3. There's a few people. The 6 actually ends up, there's an advantage. There's a financial advantage. So some people are like, I want to do the 6. So until it's gone, if you want to do the 6, you're welcome to do it. But I did the 3. It's that kind of thing where you're buying less time, so it costs less. But if you average it per month, you ended up with an advantage for the 6 months. So whatever serves you best is fine with me. And now that I've said that, my team has to make that work. Okay, so let's see. We talked about, I think there's some more pricing questions. Like for your practice, not pricing for my programs. Someone said, we initially did free intro calls with our physician and learned very quickly that most people were tire kickers trying to get valuable info from a specialist in 15 minutes. We did away with that. Now all of our calls are solid leads and know what they're signing up for. So, it depends on how you market it. When I first started my practice, I did not do like any free consult calls, but I was doing other things to bring people in. So there was a way they could audition me. I just did it in a more leveraged way, taught a certain way, had big groups, didn't even have to make an offer. Had a lot of patients come in that way. And then I had, I hired my first staff member, and people would call and ask questions that way. So that became a way that they could ask questions. And I just was able to generate so many people coming in. There was never a need to do that. Now, I will say, because I didn't like to do sales calls, I sort of avoided doing it and put a lot of work into avoiding it, and it works. I can tell you how to do it. But I realized later on that I was maybe doing like 10 things to avoid doing one thing. And there were times where, because I like to have people be happy, that, I'm so non-salesy, but there were times where I thought, I should have told that person a little bit more about what they're missing. Because if you want people to make a decision for your clinic, or even when practitioners work with me, you want them to make a decision based on the good things, all the things they get out of it. But sometimes if you don't educate them about the pain of what it means to not do anything, they're not going to get it. And so it's a little bit of a disservice if you don't say that. And there was definitely a time period where I wasn't saying that. And I think that was wrong. So I had to get honest and get real about that. So then I had health coaches that I trained. We offered a 15-minute no charge consult, and that was open to anyone. You could book it right off the website. We had 90% conversion rate for a paid intake. So I can teach you how to do that. Then later, some of this depends on how your services are priced. If you're doing everything a la carte and it's a low price, then there's little resistance to beginning. And then you want as little barriers as possible to begin. Now, if you're the practitioner and you're doing that initial intake, you usually need that to be higher price. But if you have an assistant or health coach or something doing some of the first initial intake and gathering, it can be lower price, and then you can have a broader group of people. You still have to have systems, you have to train them a certain way, but it's low barrier to begin. If you're going to have a higher price, let's say you're going to do a program, like we do membership now, which is really the way we do it. It's like a name for a program. We do it this is in the clinic. We do 4-month blocks, and it's all set up in a certain way. And if you're going to charge something, especially when you start getting like over $1,000, you need to have a phone call, right? You need to have a sales call, no matter what you call it. In the clinic, we call it the questions. That's the call. If you call it a no charge consult, or you call it a strategy call, or you call it a discovery call, or whatever the heck you call it, it's still like an audition. It's where people get to know about you and you answer questions. And there's a skill set to doing that. But if you're going to have a higher price service, you need to have that. And then there's a certain, like around about a third, you should expect to become a patient. That's sort of your goal. If it's in the beginning, you're only getting 10% or 15%, that's typical. You're going to have to talk to more people. Then you're going to have to work on your skills so you can be better. If you're getting 60%, your prices are too low. I just did a program. So I launched, just to give you an idea what someone motivated can do. When I signed up with my coach, 6 figures, I don't take that lightly. I don't have like chump change, right? And I have the best husband in the world. He's like, could you make that back in 5 years? I was like, of course. He's not at all worried. But I'm like, whatever, I'm going to make it back right away because I'm not comfortable with debt. So it took me 3 weeks of prep. And then in 12 days, I did 150,000 in sales. There was actually 122 in the 12 days, and then a little bit more trickled in from that same period. So it was 145 to 150,000, something like that. That's just my comfort level. I wanted to pay that all off immediately. So one of the things I launched during that time was a program to see me as the practitioner, and I did price it higher. And I was only going to take 10. Somehow 11 got in, but the first 11 calls, they all signed up. 100% sales, and then 78% paid in full. Great. I can teach you how to do that too. But I didn't price it high enough. Okay, that was 100%. So don't expect that. That's not normal. So you have to be priced high enough. Anyway, am I worried about the recession? No. There's always something you can do. When you understand the skills of business and that you can scale up, scale down, you can pivot, you can do a la carte, you can do a group, you can do brick and mortar, you can do telemedicine. You have so many options and so many ways to serve people. Then you can make tweaks no matter what comes your way. One business owner, I think this was on Queer Eye, said, I pivoted so many times the last 2 years, I feel like a basketball player, which is funny, but it's like, it's being able to make these little adjustments that make all the difference. Okay, let's see. Any other questions that I missed here? I know we went way over, so thank you for staying longer. I just want to make sure everyone's questions get answered. Someone said, I heard that packages are the best way to go, but I'm concerned that patients don't want to commit to an upfront cost. We can make anything work. So one of the things, I like packages and programs too. I've done it all different ways. When I do a set time with the patient, I'm super clear with them, like, hey, we're married together. We have this time together, 4 months or whatever it is. Here's what we want to accomplish. And, it's like a use it or lose it. Like, this is our time. Let's get some transformation in this time. So the advantage to that is they're invested. They have stakes, right? They've spent money. There's a time limit. So there's two things they're typically not going to do. Now, I mean, every now and then someone could just not show up at all, right? But there's two things they typically won't do in that scenario. They won't stress about, I spent this money on the exam and I spent this money on the report, and now I have to think, do I want to go for this follow-up visit? Or, I feel a little bit better. Let me wait till later. And then they wait till later, and then they feel really crappy again, and that's when they come back. So it's always crisis care, right? So you don't really have to worry about that. Or the person who says they want to do something, they're really motivated, but then they just get too busy or distracted, like they want to be there. There's a set time frame. So I think we get better results. It's more concentrated. When I built mine, I sort of looked at what do most patients do over the year, and I just shoved it into 4 months, changed the format, created it so there was a financial advantage to them, worked really well for the office, actually tripled revenue from the very first month we did it. So anyway, did I hire my first person to answer calls as a health coach? No, I hired my first person because I started from nothing, and then I was already hitting like 10, 15,000 by month 6. And I was like, oh, I'm drowning in here. So I asked my friend, would you come work here for like 3 weeks? And she's in her 6th year now. It was the kind of thing where, could you help me? And by the way, we're just going to build the plane as we're flying it. So that's sort of how it started. And then she morphed, and, everything morphed as we were going. Let's see, any other questions that I missed? Can you please explain more about Dave Ramsey's connection to us? Okay. The short version. Dave Ramsey's biggest thing is teaching people how to get out of debt. And most people he's teaching how to get out of debt, they're doing stupid debt. Like, they're not doing the kind of debt we're talking about. They're buying some massive stereo system, or they're buying the sports car, or they're paying for the really expensive vacation. And experiences can be wonderful, but if they're getting into debt over it, this is not wise, right? They don't understand how to invest, or maybe he gets them a little bit into investing, but the main investment is to pay down your debt. And then his other big thing is about building, having a home. Well, your home, it can be your biggest investment, but it's always going to be your biggest expense, for sure. So a lot of his advice is really helpful for the ordinary American, but you are not the ordinary American. You have an advanced degree, and you're a business owner. You are going to use debt to build, and you're investing in yourself. and you are absolutely the best investment you'll ever have. And my husband used to say this all the time. I was like, all right, I'm going to invest in this, that, and the other. And we do invest. But he would always say, you're the best investment. Anything we can spend on money that you're going to do, that has the highest return. And you can actually run the numbers and see. So if you invest in building your practice, that's a much higher return. You do it right, much higher guarantee than you'll get from the stock market, or you'll even get from the housing market or anything like that. So the average American does not have that. The average American works a job. It's a W-2. There's a ceiling on what they can earn. There's a set amount of taxes that are taken out of their paycheck. They are maybe limited to just being in partnership with the government with a certain, IRA, and you have a world of other opportunities, from expenses to taxes to growth to income to investing vehicles to retirement plans. There's a whole world of stuff you might not know about yet. But step number one is to get you into practice. That's step number one. Don't get down a rabbit hole and start looking up all that financial stuff. Don't care about that yet. First investment is you getting into practice, hitting your initial financial goals, being a wonderful practitioner, leveraging your systems, and then we go to the next step. But that's why I say Dave Ramsey's not for you. Sorry, Dave, but nope. All right, I think I got through them all. If there's any other last question you want to ask, please put it in. Otherwise, I think we did a good job. Thanks for all those who stayed on through all the Q&A. It was lovely talking to all of you. Thanks, Scott, so much for sharing this with your lovely people and being here. Really appreciate it. And I hope to see you either like on Facebook or schedule a call. I'd love to chat with you. Or maybe when we get to talk to Scott and hear all about him, that's going to be exciting. He's going to be talking about telemedicine, and that is really something everyone needs to know. Really hot topic, and for good reasons. I love telemedicine. It's a lot of fun. I like it on both sides. I like being the practitioner, and as a patient, I like it too. I don't even go to the grocery store anymore now, right? How many people like go shopping anymore? Isn't everything getting like delivered to your house? Thank you. I try to be very straightforward with everything. Appreciate it. Okay, any other questions we missed? team@thefunctionalmedicineacademy.com. You're welcome to email us later. If we're in the middle of doing something, like next week's going to be crazy, right? Maybe give us an extra day to reply. But otherwise, we work really hard to get back to you within 24 hours. All right, everyone, I'm signing off. Thank you. Have a good rest of your night. Bye.